Has your faith become comfortable without you realizing it? I know I've been in those places myself. You find that you still love God, you pray, you go to church, you believe that He has purpose for your life, yet you keep circling those same fears, habits, struggles, wondering why your breakthrough seems to be missing. What if the comfort protecting you from that discomfort is also keeping you from the growth that God has for you? And so today I'm going to be talking with Denette Kirschner. She's a biblical counselor, speaker, Amazon best-selling author of Rootbound. And we're discussing how to recognize safe Christianity today and what it might be costing you and how to begin growing deeper in your faith. So Denette, welcome to Making Life Beautiful again. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Your message, it hits so beautifully with what we talk about here in Making Life Beautiful again, because real beauty is not only about what is changing on the outside, right? It's also about becoming the woman God is still shaping you to be. Midlife, it has a way of like revealing where we've grown, but it also can reveal where we have been left in a comfortable position. We kind of get stuck in a little bit of a rut. And so we can spend years caring for everyone else, following familiar routines, and doing what has always worked, right? But while we're also in the same place, I think a lot of us find ourselves quietly feeling like there should be a little bit more to life. And that is why I wanted Danette to come here. I just finished reading her book. And her message is an invitation to stop circling in that same place of comfort and begin trusting God enough to grow where He has planted us. And so I believe that kind of growth can make every part of your life more beautiful. And so before we talk about Rootbound, I want our listeners to know the woman behind the message. And so what is one part of your life right now that brings you the most joy and helps us understand who Danette is when she's not counseling, speaking, writing, and or doing beauty treatments on other women?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is I'm actually a brand new grandmother. It's kind of full circle with my book. As people will read my book, they'll hear the story of my faith and how my grandmother is a huge part of the book, and how she was a huge part of my life, and really just helping to form my faith journey and introduce me to the Lord. And um, the plant that I talk about in the book, Rootbound, came from my grandmother's funeral. And so right now, kind of just ironically, I don't believe in coincidence. So I know that God's planning is divine, and it's been really beautiful that the my book came out at the same time that I became a grandmother. I'm hoping and praying that I can walk in my grandmother's shoes for my granddaughter now in ways that my grandmother led me to church, to Sunday school, to vacation Bible school, to all those things.
So I love that so much. So I have two grandchildren of my own, and it feels like a special calling that the Lord has given us, right? Where we get to now walk in that legacy piece. So now that we've heard what gives you joy in this season of your life and how it so beautifully connects to your book, let's talk about your book. So when did you first realize that God was kind of giving you this message about comfortable Christianity?
Well, the idea of wanting to write a book came to me a couple years ago, and I was talking with my mentor, Erin, and I remember telling her, God's calling me to write another book, but I don't know what. I knew that the book was coming in some way, but I didn't know what the book was going to be about initially. And over the last couple of years, God made it very clear, as I describe in the book, of how my plant, Laverne, of course, named after my grandmother, and the messages that God just downloaded into me with my plant, and stories of my grandmother. He made it clear that I was stuck in safe Christianity. And, safe Christianity, a lot of times I think might be a little bit confusing for people when we hear the term safe Christianity, because we associate the word safe with safety, with comfort, which is essentially a good thing. Um, but as Christians, God calls us to step outside of that and to really just be a light for others, to make sure that those that are in our path, that, we are Christ-like, that we are disciples, that we are the hands and feet of the Lord. And so If we are loving the Lord and we're just keeping that for ourselves, we're gatekeeping this beautiful relationship and the salvation to come. Um, Safe Christianity is definitely where we're staying under that umbrella of, and we're not called to stay there. We're called to step outside and be bold. And so he made it clear that I was stuck in that safe zone. I wasn't going out of my way to disciple. I wasn't going out of my way to pray for people publicly or to share scripture or to invite them to church or to tell them about the good things that he's done for me because I was afraid of confrontation. I was afraid of difficult conversations, rejection, all the things that I think a lot of us feel or struggle with at some point in our journey with the Lord, but he calls us to come out of that and to be bold.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of what I address here at Making Life Beautiful again is, a lot of women, they're afraid to step out and do the thing because of what people will think of them. You know, people won't take me seriously because I'm now over the hill or
Yes.
whatever it is, right?
Yes.
And so I think this is a beautiful what you're talking about. So let's go ahead and define real quickly for the women who are hearing root bound for the first time, right? What does that mean to be spiritually root bound?
Root bound means that you are just stuck in a small container. Think of a plant, right? As I describe in my book, you're in a pot and your roots are growing, right? You're spending time with the Lord. You're walking with him. You're hearing from him and you're growing, but on the bottom in the pot, right? But you're not really growing in the top, right? You're kind of wilting in the top. You're not flourishing. You're stuck. You're root bound. And that's exactly like we see with the plant, that's exactly what happens in our lives and in our faith is if we are keeping it all contained in this tiny little pot, it's growing on the inside. It's yearning to get out, it's going to crack and break at some point, but it can only stay that way for so long before you do start to wilt. And people have said, I've had this desire to talk about my faith. I want to talk about my faith, but I'm scared. And, we have that desire for a reason because we're supposed to. We're supposed to talk about our faith. And so if we're staying in this little container and we're keeping it all to ourselves, there might be some growth happening inside, right? There is growth happening inside. But the flourishing that we're going to see above and beyond is only going to go so far.
Yeah, and I'm very limited in my understanding of plants.
Me too.
But I do have one plant. It's a bonsai plant. And, the funny thing about that, speaking of the whole root system, my husband and I, we did not follow what we were supposed to do. We did not repot it when it was due to be repotted. And so you think, that it'll be fine, but there are going to be visual signs, right? There will be things that clearly say something's not good for this plant. And for my particular plant, the bonsai, it looked healthy actually. Their leaves just got really massive, bigger than they were supposed to be, but that was because it was trying to send the juices to somewhere. And so all it
Yeah.
did was just get really big leaves. And so we took it to our bonsai friend and he said, "Oh, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to do some massive pruning before you replant now because we had let it go too far." And so, you know, uh, taking that back to the people who are listening, like what are some signs that her faith has become comfortable or, rather than being able to be repotted and grow?
Mhm. Well, some signs that you might just be sitting in that comfort zone is first and foremost, if you're just keeping your faith to yourself. If you're spending time with the Lord, which is amazing, and we should be doing that. You're doing your devotions, you're reading your Bible, you're saying your prayers, you're going on your prayer walk, you're worshiping and listening to worship music, even attending church. but you're not having conversations with other people. You're not in fellowship with others. You are not um, praying for others out loud, even in their presence. You are not sharing scriptures. You are not telling really anyone about your faith or your walk with the Lord or your testimony. You're probably stuck in that safe comfort Christian zone. And that's only going to go so far, right? You can only grow like we were talking about, and you'll know when it's time to start stepping out. You're going to feel those nudges. You're going to hear, those little whispers or those little messages from the Lord, say, hey, go pray for that person. Go serve in that way. Go meet with that person. Go invite that one to church. Um, Ask that whoever comes to mind, right? Can I pray for you? Um, do you know the story of Jesus? Can I tell you about my testimony? Um, Share the good news in some way. And it doesn't have to be that you are knocking on doors and running Bibles all over your community. And if that's what God calls you to do, that's great. But sometimes it is just being Christ like in a way that people can see Jesus through you in some way. And of course, tell them, when someone says, you have joy all the time, or you seem to not let things bother you, because of course they do bother us and we're not joyful all the time. But if we're Christ-like and we're walking hand in hand with God, people are going to pick up on these things. And that's your opportunity to share with them. I do have struggles. I'm not joyful all the time, but I can live in joy in this moment despite hardships, despite circumstances, because I know that God is walking with me and He has seen me through all the things of my past. And I know that He's going to be faithful to see me through today and tomorrow. And so they're going to see that in you. They're going to ask questions. They're going to see changes, and those are just little opportunities to just give a little push in the right direction or a little encouragement of faith and planting those seeds. Don't underestimate how big those seeds can grow.
As you were talking just now, I'm like, oh, she is reading my mail, right? Because I grew up as a pastor's kid. You would think that I would have been sharing my testimony, speaking the good news, all the things so much sooner than now in my midlife as a grandma, you know. But I did. I got to that place where it got really uncomfortable, and I could feel the pruning. I could feel the Lord just kept pushing. He was gentle about it, but I could feel it, things getting uncomfortable. And so I joke with people because I say I was this close to walking with a limp like Jacob, right? It's like because I fought with the Lord about doing this. I wanted to be comfortable. I liked being an introvert who didn't have to get on a computer in front of a camera, you know.
Yes, yes,
But I will say the beauty of when we answer the call, because you were talking about having to be joy, being perfect all the time, right? And that was part of the reason why I stayed away from doing all of this is because I thought I had to. But if we're perfect, then we have no reason to need the Lord and who He is in our life,
mhm,
which then takes the power
right.
out of the power of the testimony, right? So it's in the daily grind that we live and how the Lord shows up for us that makes other people feel like they can trust you, trust the Lord, the authenticity of just knowing who God can be in their lives. And so that's what I love about what your book talks about, because it really is saying, just show up. Your job is the 5 loaves and 2 fish. His job is
Shown.
the miracle, right? So just
Right.
it's not
That's
even it's
right.
not even like he's asking you to get uncomfortable. You think it's going to be uncomfortable because of all the fears and the things you've been telling
Right.
yourself leading into it. But once I started
Right.
walking into this place, someone said, you're really enjoying this. And I'm like, I kind of am, right? Like I'm enjoying the fact that I'm actually able to help people with the things that I've spent a lifetime learning. It makes it worth all the challenges and the work I've been through to be able to share it with someone and save them from all of this. So, okay, I love how you said, of course you're going to church and you're doing all these things. So, we're not talking about people who necessarily walk away from the Lord, right? I mean, some people listening, that might be the thing. They might have walked
Sure.
away from the Lord, but when you get comfortable, you're just living your life daily, doing the thing, right? Now, there does come a cost when you get to a place where your roots have all maxed out the pot, you've gotten comfortable. What do you think it costs us over time?
There's a lot of fears that come up of, well, what if I lose friendships? What if my message is not well received? What if they remember me from my past and my sin and, I'm not a good disciple. I'm not, who they want to hear this message from. And so we tend to put cost um, and fear, in the same category because they often run side by side. So, does it cost us these things when we become a little bit more bold in our faith? They can initially, but we have to look at the benefit that can come out of this more so than what's it going to cost me in the here and now. Even if God tells you to reach out to someone in particular, and you're scared and there's fear related and you're looking at, okay, the cost, what could this potentially cost me? This person may never want to speak to me again, right? But what if you planted a seed, and they may not be wanting to hear it all right now, but what if you planted a seed, and maybe it's not today, but maybe it's a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever, that seed does get fertilized and it does bloom and it does flourish into this beautiful relationship with the Lord, and that person, does find salvation and walk with the Lord. Did it really cost us anything? It didn't. Like, we would praise that and be so grateful. So initially the things that we fear that will cost us something, relationships or what have you. Yeah, that can be definitely a real thought in our mind, but I always want to encourage you to look on the opposite side of that. And where is that fear coming from? Because most of the time it's coming from the enemy. He doesn't want us to reach out. He doesn't want us to be disciples. He doesn't want us to be the hands and feet of the Lord. And so he's going to tell you, hey, there's a heavy cost related to this. You're going to lose X, Y, and Z. This may change things for you in ways that you don't want to see change. Um, but God says, walk with him, abide in him, disciple for him, and he will turn all things for good. And so what might feel like a heavy cost initially will most likely be beautiful in the end.
Agree with that. If anything, the cost ends up being that you've missed out on a miracle if you don't
Yes.
act, right? And
Yes.
so that's the tension that we find ourselves in, this comfortability versus the discomfort.
Yes.
Is it's through that discomfort we get to see who God really can be when we
Yeah.
just step into that. Speaking of, because you talked about like the courage and relationships and things, like when someone responds to God, help us a little bit understand how can these women move a little bit beyond that familiar, that comfortability, so that they can step into this.
I think the first thing is to be spending time with the Lord yourself. And of course, I'm here to encourage everyone to be bold in their faith. But the first step is to really, really get deep with the Lord one on one yourself first. The more that you know the Lord, the more comfortable, first of all, you're going to be to go out and share, the louder his voice and his nudges are going to be for you as you grow closer in your relationship with him. Just like your relationship with your friends or your spouse or whoever, right? The more time you spend with them, the closer you become. And it's the same thing with our relationship with the Lord. So the more time that you spend with him and that that quiet secret place, prayer time, prayer walks, just having conversations with him, that's the first step. Getting really deep with him, that is going to help you be bolder in the long run for others. But that doesn't mean you have to wait for that relationship to be really, really strong on your end, because God is already there. He's waiting on us to show up. So it's not that he's not already there guiding you. So you can still go out and be bold, but I really believe that that's the first step. And some people say, well, I don't really know how to talk with him, or to do a go on a prayer walk, or I'm not big on journaling, or I read the Bible and it just doesn't make that much sense. And I always say, you know what? Start with writing letters. Start with writing a letter to God every day. Dear Lord, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's where I'm at. This is what I need help with. Because writing it out, it's just as good as saying it to the Lord. And sometimes that's easier. And so, even just starting with that, writing a letter to the Lord every day, there's nothing that you can put in that letter. There's nothing that you can say to him that's going to shock him, that's going to turn him away. He already knows. And so just start there. Start with really growing in your personal relationship with him. And that's going to be authentic between you and him. I'm sure everyone sees, people will have on social media, right? They have these really beautiful morning routines where they get up and they have their quiet time with God, and they read their devotion and they do their Bible study, and they have all, this beautiful curated routine. And that's great. But because it is an individual relationship, it might look different for you. It may not look anything like what your friend in her relationship with God looks like, or what your favorite influencer looks like, or what my relationship or what Michelle's relationship looks like. It's going to be individual. So wherever you feel the closest to the Lord, start there.
And I think people, they underestimate the tiny steps that take you up the mountain, right? And so when we're thinking bold, we think of what's on the mountaintop, and we think, well, I can't get to the mountaintop, so I might as well not even try, right? But the truth of it is, and I'll give an example, because you and I were in the same writing and coaching group. That's how we got to meet.
Yes.
When I met Carolyn, I was not even a journaler. I had been told as a little kid that I was going to write books one day. Something about that terrified me, so I just refused to put pen to paper on anything. And so by the time I had met Carolyn, I was like, I don't even know how to write. Like I don't I just know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't know where to start. I don't know any of the things, right? And that sounds ludicrous, I know, for people listening, because it just means sit down with a pen and paper and just start putting your thoughts on paper. But to me, it was a mountain that I wasn't ready to climb. And so, literally, sometimes you just have to ask someone who can be on the outside and see things a little bit more clearly, like, what would be a small, tiny step that I could make
Yep.
in this direction? Because I
Yep.
feel the Lord is calling me to this. And so, that's where the power of the testimony and community comes involved too, because having someone who's rooting you on while you're in the middle of the terrifying stepping out on the water kind of moment, when your heart is pacing and racing, and oh my goodness, this is a big deal for me. you know, it is beautiful because the Lord surrounds you with the right people to support you in that moment. He's standing there with you during that moment. He's not asking you to get to the mountain without all the baby steps that take you to get there, right?
That's right. That's right.
And your book does a beautiful job of walking people through all this. What is the difference between God stretching them and then simply just feeling restless or dissatisfied with where they're at? Or is it the same thing?
I guess it can be different for some people. It might be the same for some. Um, but you have to kind of pray and ask, where if it's restlessness, where is that coming from? Right? Is it coming from nudges from God of wanting to push you and stretch you and get you to go a certain direction? Or is it the restlessness coming from the enemy trying to hold you back, where you're almost like running in sand, right? You're trying to move forward, but you're just kind of stuck in this, sand. So I think prayer is the best way to start there. Where is this coming from? Is this nudging from the Lord? Is this the enemy trying to hold me back? And then, deciphering from there. I will say, majority of the time, if the Lord has put something on your heart and you know that He's leading you to something, but you feel like something's holding you back a little bit, there might be a little warfare happening there. Somebody might not want you to go out and get that message out there. So sometimes we have to just resist that and ask God to pull us a little bit harder, a little tug of war there.
Yeah, and you talk about a theme in your book about embracing your mission field. It's like sometimes there is true resistance outside of yourself, and then sometimes there's that internal resistance, right? And being able to define which one you're up against is helpful, right? Because then you can take it to the Lord's feet and let Him handle both of them. But it allows you to have the perspective.
Yes.
So let's talk about embracing your mission field. What do you mean by that? And as far as women here, like, how do they recognize their mission field that God has for them?
Well, your mission field is wherever God has you right now. And we are often looking ahead, right? We're often looking at, a lot of people refer to as like the mountaintop syndrome of like what's going to be at the next mountain, the next big thing. But embracing your mission field is embracing where God has you right now. You may not be in the job that you think is your forever career. You might be a stay-at-home mom right now. You might be a volunteer. You might be wherever, right? You might be traveling. Wherever God has you, that is your mission field. Even if it's not your forever vocation, if it's not your forever community, it's not your forever job, whatever, right? It may not be that's where God's going to place you for the rest of your life, but your mission field is wherever God has you right now. Even if it doesn't always feel joyful and encouraging and fun, God has you here for a specific reason. It might just be that you are to be an encouragement to one person. It might be that you are to be an encouragement for many. It might be that somebody there, and even if they're difficult, are teaching you a really solid life lesson that's going to help you grow in your faith. But embracing your mission field, by that I mean embrace where you're at right now, because it's not a mistake. Even if it doesn't feel like, oh, I just love where I'm at right now, this phase of life is the best life, it may not feel that way. It might not feel that way. But if you can look at, where can I bless someone else in this place that I'm in right now? Or where can I pick up on a lesson or a blessing that God is trying to teach me? You're going to find joy in every moment of your life in some way. It might not feel like all sunshine and rainbows all the time, but God will move you through different mission fields throughout your life, and they're for a reason. There's no such thing as coincidence. They're for a reason.
How you say for right now, because the picture that I was drawing in my mind that fits similarly to the pot you're talking about is like my little grandson, he outgrows his shoes so fast. And so where he is right now, those shoes fit. There, he's going to be able to run in them. He'll be able to live life to its fullest in them. But then you get a couple weeks from now, all that growth, you get to a place where it's time to get a new pair of shoes, right? And so you for
Yes.
sure you
Yeah,
don't want to get so comfortable and so excited about where he has you right now. You want to hold it all loosely. Like so each day it becomes, okay, Lord, what do you have for me today? What do you have for me today?
that's right.
Each day, right?
That's right.
Because you may end up being at the same job every day, but
Sure.
there may be a new promotion. There may be someone else that he wants you to communicate and talk with at lunchtime instead of the person you've been talking with for the last 10 years. And so I love how you say right now, it's
Yeah.
for today.
Yep.
Um, so for a woman who's desperate, like listening, and they're like, okay, this sounds great, you guys, but I'm kind of desperate. Like I've been in this uncomfortable place for a while. I've outgrown my shoes or my pot. I know that I need to be further along than I am. And breakthrough can be uncomfortable, right? Because when you take the root bound part out of the pot and you see all the tangled mess, you actually have to kind of work those roots a little bit to even you have to break them apart. So for the woman who's looking for her breakthrough, what's one step she can take today, and what can she expect through that obedience that she takes with the Lord?
I think, like I had said a little while ago, really just honing in on growing deeper in your walk with the Lord, talking with Him more, being in prayer all throughout your day. But then, in addition to that, we are meant to be in community. We aren't meant to walk this life alone. And, when I talk about breaking free from safe Christianity, that's what I refer to is really breaking free from holding our faith into our own small environment and going out and spreading that with others. But then, when in regards to your question, is there someone in your community that could mentor you? Is there someone that at your church that will disciple or walk alongside of you? It could be a friend, it could be an elder, it could be a pastor, it could be your pastor's wife, it could be somebody in your neighborhood. Having someone to walk alongside of you on your journey is so important. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to walk alongside, especially as women, to walk alongside each other in our lives and to help support and encourage.
So speaking of encouragement, what
Okay?
is one thing you wish every midlife woman understood about her beauty, her identity, or her purpose in Christ?
It's all meant to be. You are meant to be exactly where you're at right now. You are meant to be even in midlife, right? We tend to think, oh, the good years are behind us. Oh my goodness. No, you are meant for such beauty right now as a midlife woman, as a grandmother, if you have grandchildren, as a mother to adult children. You are meant to be in this place right now, and it is meant to be beautiful. Your skin is beautiful, right? We, of course, as you, Michelle, talk so much about all the natural beauty that God has blessed us with, but the smile lines are meant to be there. They're trophies of the beautiful things that we've already walked through. Our gray hair is, wisdom. A lot of my clients, I'm also a hairdresser, will refer to them as like wisdom shimmers. We're meant to be in this place for a reason, and it's meant to be enjoyable. Our best years are not behind us. Our best years are the ones that we're living in the current moment. So embrace them. They really are meant to be joyful and beautiful and celebrated.
Yeah, I love that. Tell all of us where they can find your book, where they can find you and connect with you.
Okay. So my book is Rootbound, Breaking Free from Safe Christianity to Grow Where God Plants You. This is a story, whether you are new in your faith, you maybe are a veteran believer, maybe you've walked with God your whole life. This is something that can encourage you to go even deeper, to step out and to reach others, to plant those seeds of faith, to encourage others to walk with the Lord. Rootbound is available on Amazon right now. You can find me on Instagram at Fourth in Faith with Danette. And I'm also on Facebook on my personal account there, which I love to connect everyone under Danette Kirschner or under Spirited Wellness.
Awesome. And congratulations on the best-selling Amazon list for a release book. That's been
Thank
exciting
you.
to watch. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your message today.
Sure.
So again, you can connect with her at DanetteKirschner.com. We'll have that in the show notes as well. So be sure to pick up a copy of her book because you guys, you're going to love it. And next week, we're going to be shifting from the roots of our faith to something many women carry without realizing it, and that is jaw tension. So if you've been sitting in this uncomfortability place, you might find that you're holding tension in your body that you didn't even realize. Also, August 19th at 7 p.m. Central, join us for our 100th live stream celebration and PJ party. Bring a friend, come celebrate with us. Danette, thank you so much for joining us. You know, everyone listening, I just want you to remember it's never too late to make life beautiful again, and God is always beside you, wanting to help you get out of that root bound place. So, like she said, you know, if you don't know where to start, pull out a piece of paper and a pen, journal with Him, and ask Him the questions. He will guide you in the right next steps. So, we love all of you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye bye.